You walk into a room, you notice who looks, you feel your body adjust, and you smile before you feel. You speak a little louder, laugh at what didn't touch you, share something intimate too fast, just to avoid being invisible. On the outside, presence. On the inside, silence. The more attention you get, the less peace you feel, and the emptiness grows quietly. You don't realize it, but you beg. Not for love, for validation, to exist in someone's eyes. No one taught you how to be seen at rest. Only through effort, only through overgiving, only through performance. And the question echoing isn't, why do they leave? It's deeper, more uncomfortable. Why, when I'm seen, do I still feel empty? You don't seek attention because you're weak. You seek attention because you learned to survive that way. At some point in your story, being seen became safety. Being noticed became emotional protection. Silence started to feel like abandonment, and your mind recorded that logic without asking. It wasn't a conscious choice. It was a quiet adaptation. Napoleon Hill taught that the mind acts to avoid pain. It repeats strategies that once worked, even if they hurt now, even if they drain you now. When inner validation is missing, it's sought outside, not out of vanity, but out of emotional necessity. And that changes everything. You learned early that attention meant value, that fast replies meant importance, that being chosen meant safety. So your brain linked love to reaction, presence to intensity, affection to effort, and rest became a threat, an invisible risk. That's why you speak more than you feel, laugh before you trust, give before receiving, explain yourself before being questioned, not to manipulate, but to secure space, to avoid disappearing, to keep existing. The mind makes silent calculations. If I please, I stay. If I'm interesting, they won't leave. If I adapt, I'm accepted. Hill called this mental conditioning. A belief repeated becomes identity, and identity shapes destiny, even when it hurts. You don't notice when it starts, but it starts early. You watch yourself too much, correct yourself too much, shape yourself too much, all to keep attention, all to avoid rejection, all to escape the void. The problem was never wanting connection. The problem was trading worth for approval, trading essence for reaction, trading truth for acceptance, because attention doesn't sustain the soul. It excites, it fades, and then it charges a price. That's when exhaustion shows up. The body feels heavy, the mind races, the heart stays alert, because you're always on, always performing presence, always fearing silence, and silence arrives. Here comes the relief. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not hard to love. You simply learned it wrong. You learned you had to prove worth, when worth is never proven. It is recognized, and this realization hurts, because it dismantles an old illusion. You weren't searching for people. You were searching for confirmation, searching for mirrors, searching for signs you existed. But mirrors break, and the emptiness returns. At first, you call it bad luck. Then you call it coincidence. But the script repeats too often. Intense people at the start, distant later. Vague promises, intermittent presence, always the same ending. You don't choose badly on purpose. You choose what feels familiar. The heart recognizes old patterns, even when they hurt, even when they exhaust you. The unconscious seeks what it knows, not what heals, and that happens quietly. You connect too fast. You give before the right time. You commit without safety, not because you're naive, but because you learned it that way. Love became urgency, waiting became threat, and the body reacts. There's a hidden rush, a fear of losing space, a fear of being forgotten. So you accelerate bonds, create artificial intimacy, confuse intensity with connection, and call it love, but it isn't. The pattern doesn't start in them. It starts in you, in how you offer yourself, in how you adapt, in how you silence boundaries, all to keep attention, all to avoid being left, all to escape the void. You see it now. You always choose those who require effort, who give emotional crumbs, who need to be convinced, because that activates something old. The belief that love must be earned, never received, never rested in, and when the other pulls away, you blame yourself. You give more. You shrink yourself. You adapt a little more, as if love were a test, as if worth were currency. That must be paid. Here is the trap. You attract attention, but you don't sustain connection, because you don't show who you are. You show who you think you must be. That draws curiosity, but not commitment, not permanence. The unconscious isn't trying to punish you, it's trying to protect you. It repeats the familiar, because the unknown scares it, even when it's better, even when it's healthier, even when it's safer. And you see it. This pattern didn't start today. It comes from far back, from old silences, from normalized absences, from conditional love. But what was learned can be unlearned. At first, you don't notice the cost. It just feels like accumulated fatigue, sleep that doesn't restore, an anxiety without a name. You start doubting yourself, what you feel, what you deserve, and you keep going. You feel exhausted, not physically, but in your soul, because you're always alert, always adjusting, always trying to keep interest, never simply being, and that erodes you. The emptiness grows, even when someone is beside you, even when there are messages, even when there are invitations, because none of it reaches deep, none of it sustains, none of it rests in you. It just passes through. Loneliness becomes identity. You start thinking this is just how it is, that love hurts, that relationships drain you, that connection requires constant sacrifice. So you normalize discomfort. Call it maturity, but it's self-abandonment. Then the false solution appears. Love more, give more, be more understanding, more available, more interesting, as if excess presence could heal absence. But it can't. You try to please, you try to anticipate, you try to be indispensable. But the more you effort, the less you're respected, the less you're chosen. Because the other senses, that you've disappeared. When that fails, you shut down. You become cold, distant, too independent. But it's not strength, it's defense, fear in disguise. And it doesn't work either. Neither loving too much works, nor closing yourself off works. Because the problem isn't the other, nor the amount of love. It's the place you love from, a wounded place that asks for confirmation all the time. This pattern charges a high price. It steals your spontaneity, your light joy, your inner peace. You begin living for others' reactions, and that disconnects you from yourself. God watches in silence and waits. But here, something clears. You begin to see that none of this is healthy love. It's emotional survival. It's fear of disappearing. It's trying to fill the wrong void with the wrong people. Healing begins without spectacle, without announcements, without long explanations. It starts with an inner gesture, small but radical. You stop over-offering yourself and you observe. The first action is conscious silence, not the silence of punishment, but the silence of presence. You reply less, explain less, justify yourself less, not to play games, but to listen to yourself. When you reduce performance, the body reacts, anxiety rises, fear shows up. Because the old pattern protests, it says you'll lose everything. But that's just habit speaking. It's not truth. The second action is the simple boundary, not a speech, not a confrontation, just an honest no, a not right now, a this doesn't work for me, without guilt, without excess. Psychology shows something clearly. Those who respect your boundaries stay. Those who disappear because of them never stayed. Boundaries don't push love away. They reveal, they filter, they protect, and they teach. You start noticing something new. Fewer people, but more truth. Less intensity, but more peace. The emptiness hasn't vanished yet, but it changes shape. It no longer commands you. It waits. This phase is uncomfortable because you're not filling anymore. You're feeling. You're staying with yourself, without emotional distractions, without applause, without instant validation, just you. And that scares you, because you've never stayed there before. You always ran to the other, to the look, to the reaction. Now you stay, you breathe, and you endure. Slowly, something reorganizes. Your presence softens, your speech clears, your body relaxes. You don't need to seek attention. It starts coming naturally. But it's no longer the goal. It's a consequence. Healing isn't becoming someone else. It's stopping self-abandonment. It's returning to yourself, even with fear, even with silence, even with emptiness, because only then it transforms. Hey, if you got distracted, come back here now. Breathe. Don't skip this part. Don't let it pass. Because what comes next changes the axis of everything. It's not comfortable, but it's liberating. Up to now, You thought God was absent, too silent, too distant, as if he didn't see your loneliness, as if he ignored your effort, but maybe he was waiting for something else, not more giving, but truth. You sought attention the wrong way, and that wasn't sin. It was unhealed need. It was emptiness asking for comfort. God didn't reject you for that. He simply didn't feed the illusion, because he doesn't validate what wounds you, even when it hurts. Scripture says something simple and deep. What makes a person desirable is their loyalty. Not effort, not performance, not excess, but truth lived in peace. God never asked for a show. He asked for wholeness. When you perform to be loved, you move away from who God created because he doesn't relate to masks. He draws near to the real heart, even broken, even confused, even tired, especially there. The Psalm says, "The Lord is near, not to the strong, not to the impressive, but to the brokenhearted, to those who stopped pretending, to those tired of proving worth." God doesn't enter when you seek attention. He enters when you surrender. Maybe loneliness wasn't abandonment. Maybe it was protection, a space without applause, without emotional distractions, without easy validation, so you could hear yourself and finally hear him. In the silence, God didn't remove people out of cruelty. He removed stages because you were losing yourself on them, seeking attention to avoid the emptiness. But the emptiness wasn't lack of people. It was lack of you, and he wanted to return you whole. When you stop over-offering yourself, God begins to reveal himself more, not in loud promises, but in strange peace, in unexpected rest, in respected boundaries, in slower connections, safer ones. Faith here isn't escape, it's grounding. You don't use God to fill neediness, you allow him to heal the root, and that changes love, changes choices, changes rhythm, changes everything. You begin to understand. God doesn't want your exaggerated attention. He wants your full presence, without performance, without fear, without rush, just truth. And that is enough. You no longer need to seek attention. You begin to carry presence, not through effort, but through wholeness. Something in you slows down. The body no longer begs, the mind no longer races, and the soul breathes. The emptiness doesn't disappear instantly. It changes function. From enemy, it becomes signal. From urgency, it becomes invitation. You no longer rush to fill it. You listen, and it stops screaming. Because it was seen, you finally understand. It wasn't love that was missing. It was inner direction. You searched outside for what needed to be built within. And now you see. Relationships don't save. They reflect and amplify. Psychology showed you the pattern. Faith revealed the meaning. Together, they don't shame you. They free you. You no longer condemn yourself for feeling, nor force yourself to perform. You choose with awareness, and that changes everything. Love begins to arrive differently, slower, simpler, quieter, without constant proof, without emotional games, without fear of silence, because silence is now safe. You no longer abandon yourself to belong. You don't shrink to stay. You don't exaggerate to be noticed. You remain whole, and whoever comes for truth, not for neediness. Loneliness loses its power because it no longer defines you. It becomes sacred space for listening, for unhurried prayer, for mature choices. You no longer run from yourself. You dwell. What once felt like rejection now reveals purpose. It wasn't punishment. It was protection. It wasn't loss. It was alignment. You didn't lose love. You gained awareness. God didn't distance you from connection. He brought you closer to yourself. Because only those who are found can love without losing themselves. Now you understand. You don't seek attention. You sustain presence, and that is redemption. The cycle closes. You remember the original pain, but it no longer rules you. It taught you. You don't go back. You move forward differently, with less noise. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to our channel right now. Here, you won't find shallow advice, but clarity that heals and faith that grounds. Each video is a safe space to understand your pain without shame. You are not behind. You are awakening. For you who made it to the end of this video, comment, "I choose presence." There are promises activated when awareness is declared. God honors those who choose not to abandon themselves anymore. Your words today are seeds, and seeds grow peace.